We're about to get started.
Yes, my backyard.
Alright, so if you're following along on this PowerPoint, we're going to be starting down where it says Chapter 7. Which I don't know what slide that is. Okay, I just got to click. Here we go. This is what we're going to start with. You guys are only responsible for Chapters 7 and 10. Alright? So eventually this will probably get split up in your drive as two separate chapters. Okay? If you want to read the stuff above it, go ahead. That gives you a synopsis of pretty much the whole document, I guess. Each one house will be teaching you guys today.
What did he say? It's not politically correct to say. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the exciting world of the Equipment Management Manual, NAVMAN P5132. That's one thing you should probably remember out of this. NAVMAN P5132. So you don't get mixed up with 55 or 52-6 or 50-something. Alright. This is exactly what it sounds like. How to handle equipment, how to report it being bad, maintenance schedules, and all that good stuff. So, broke this down by sections. You guys had section 7 and 10 out of this one. So 7 has roughly 7 sections, 10 has roughly 7 different sections. Both of the first sections are a general overview. This section is a guide to assist in the reporting and disposing of equipment due to deficiencies, errors, or shipping type discrepancies. Purpose of a quality discrepancy report, which we will get into later, is to provide feedback for activities responsible for designs. The people that make, and purchase, supply all the equipment, provides them feedback. Quality discrepancy report. Big reference here, which if you ever go to the CVs and try to get a work order advice there, this will be referenced in the supply section. It's the NAVSUP P485. Big supply manual. 7.2 is the Transportation Discrepancy Report, SF361. That's essentially what you have to remember. Don't know what it's a report on, look at the first word. Transportation. Okay? SF361. Discrepancy in Shipments Reports System. That's the electronic system they use. So it essentially was damaged within the realm of the transportation. It's their fault. 7-Tac 3, reporting of an item and package discrepancies, SF364. Item and package discrepancies, SF364, is a report of discrepancy. That will be differentiated from the SF368, which you'll see in just a minute. Discrepancies attributable to shippers. Shipper discrepancies are the responsibility of the activity that shipped the material. So it's FedEx's fault, right? It is damaged in this instance. 7-4, medical dental material complaint of quality and complaint and quality deficiency reporting. So reporting specific to the medical and dental materials that you get. This is where you do an SF-368 product quality deficiency report. Quality deficiency report, not just a discrepancy. It's the overall quality. You have two categories. Category 1, any drug device, supply, equipment determined by its use or testing to be harmful or defective to the extent that it has caused or may cause serious illness or health or death. Category 2, same stuff, but it's just suspected of being harmful, defective, deteriorated, or otherwise unsuitable for use. So the death part isn't in there, that's the differentiation. Reporting category 1, you call the Directorate of Medical Material, NAVMed.com, and the Defense Medical Standardization Board as the information addressee. So the main person send a priority message for category 1. Category 1's really, really serious. To the Directorate of Medical Material, and then you CC, that's what info means on a message. Those two places, NAVMed.com and Defense Medical Standardization Board. These messages and telephone calls, because they're priority, everybody remembers or has at least heard the difference between the different levels of messages, right? Priority being like the top one, and then I think standard and emergency and all this good stuff. It's like IW type stuff, and it's seen somewhere else. Priority is really important. Has to be responded to within 24 hours. Must be confirmed by writing. Submit and by submitting the original and 4 copies of the SF-368 DSCP. That was that first Directorate of Medical Material. So 4 copies of the SF-368 plus the original for a total of 5 must be confirmed in writing. That's how you confirm it in writing, and priority message has to be responded to within 24 hours. Report category 2, slightly less serious. Same amount of copies of the SF-368. You have 10 working days from the discovery of the defective or unsatisfactory item. So category 1 may cause death. Immediate response by priority message. It must be confirmed in writing within 24 hours. Category 2, it's defective but slightly less serious. May just cause some minor injuries or just affect the workflow. You have 10 days to report it. Both, you need 4 copies plus the original of the SF-368, which is a quality deficiency report. Product quality deficiency report.
And so how many are you actually submitting? Yeah, understand that. That's one of those stupid areas they might ask you a question about.
7.5, quality deficiency reporting for non-medical items. Again, the SF-368, just for non-medical items. Again, the NAVSUP P485. Could be a question they ask you too. I know for the chief exam, they kind of dug into the weeds on a lot of stuff. So whereas typically it would have been, quality deficiency reporting is what form? SF-368. This time they would have gone like, the SF-368 is referred to in what publication by the United States Navy. You would have had to pick out NAVSUP P485. So to me, from what I read on that exam, it was a little more in depth than the typical questions they've asked in the past. The only reason I bring that up is it may be the same for you this cycle. Maybe something to notice. Again, category 1, critical defects which may cause death, injury, or severe occupational illness. Would cause major loss or damage to a weapons system, directly restrict the combat readiness capabilities of the using organization, or any defect which result in product production stoppage. Must be submitted within 1 day, and that's at 24 hours after discovery. So again, category 1 is the more critical category. Just talking about non-medical items in this case. Category 2, product quality deficiency that does not meet the criteria of category 1. Normally used for reporting major and minor defects. Must be submitted within 3 days after discovery for non-medical items. You have 3 days for category 2. Okay, so you gotta split up. The SF368, the medical items, the non-medical items, both have category 1 and 2. Category 1 is the more serious one that causes death or injury. The non-medical kind of expands out to, weapon systems. Does it affect your combat readiness? Does it affect the overall operation and production of what you're doing? And then the category 2 is the less serious category in both. 10 days for medical, 3 days for non-medical. It's really, really easy overview to remember. 7.6 recalls, manufacturer, and FDA recalls to the quality deficiency report log. Materials management, another subsection shop, shall maintain a log of all quality deficiency reports, recalls, and quality notices, as well as what corrective action was taken with the dates of receipt and action. So they're responsible for maintaining all of that. They maintain the log. That's what the log notes, and that's the excess information that's required to be in the log. Dates of receipt, dates of action. The document must include notification of all departments involved in ordering, dispensing, and administering medications subject to recall and or discontinuation of production. The associated quality deficiency reports, recalls, and notifications shall be maintained for a period of not less than 3 years. The reason that's in bold, that can be a dumb question too. Actually, I think I made a question on the quiz, so we'll find that out. So, quick recap. Maps up P485. It's the big reference for this whole thing. SF368, which one's that? SF364? That's that other one. Yeah. SF361. So it's minor differences, right? Transportation discrepancy report is 361. Item and package discrepancies is 364. Quality deficiency report is 368. I know he wants to add more forms to what we already have to memorize. Also, don't forget what the dental form is, the medical form is, what a 2766 is, what a 2708 is. It just keeps going. It's only going to get more fun the longer you stay in the Navy. All right, everybody good on that? All right, section 10, biomed. So biomed's obviously becoming a bigger thing. It's still a very much sought after to fill NEC for the Navy as a whole. And I'm pretty sure you're never getting out of biomed if you go into that C school. Not that that's a bad thing, it really transfers well to the outside. I'm not talking to you out of it. General, section establishes basic principles, policies, procedures, and requirements, and assigns responsibilities for conducting a medical and dental equipment maintenance management program. Applies to all Navy medical personnel. Chief of BUMED establishes policies. NAVMED LOGCOM oversees the execution of BUMED policy. COs and OICs under BSO 18 having BMETs will establish a biomed. So they establish the biomed and ensure they're following the policies. NAVMED LOGCOM has oversight over all the individual little commands, just to ensure that everybody's following BUMED policy, and BUMED's job is to come up with policy. NAVMED LOGCOM has oversight, also functions as the in-service engineering agent. Also the technical support activity for the integrated logistics support requirements of afloat medical equipment. So they do both, afloat and ashore. So NAVMED LOGCOM is the enforcer for the large portion of this program. BUMED's only role is to say these are the policies we need them to follow for this program to be effective. They will disseminate medical and dental equipment, safety, maintenance, repair, and other biomedical equipment information. COs will be responsible for following: allocate test equipment, tools, reference materials, etc., ensure funding and training, and appoint and writing a senior BMED. The senior biomed dude has to be part of these following committees. Has to be appointed in writing, has to be part of these specific 4 committees. That's what they brought up in the exact instruction. 10.3, Biomed Equipment Maintenance Division Operation. The core of Biomed's operation is the Medical Equipment Management Program, MEM. It's another acronym you get to memorize. But all you need to really know about it is this is how they track their repairs, track everything that they do. Right? MEM must be based on risk assessments that consider equipment function, etc. 3 types of maintenance requirements: scheduled, unscheduled, and none required. So you can see the acronyms for those as well. That's a really dumb possible question that can pop up. SM, scheduled maintenance; UM, unscheduled maintenance; NMR, no maintenance required. 3 maintenance levels. Once you do types of maintenance, then there's 3 maintenance levels. Level 1 is performance testing, make sure it works. Level 2 is the inspection, prep med, calibration, and parts replacement. Do that every month, every week, etc. And then level 3 is the big one. It's the maintenance that consists of maintenance requiring complete overhaul. So typically they send that off. Contracts and warranties, section 10.4. All requests for contracted maintenance of medical and dental equipment will be submitted via Biomed for technical review. So your individual shop needs equipment X looked at, overhauled, whatever. Everything has to go through Biomed so that they can track it in MEM and approve it and make sure it's something that they can't do and they need done via warranty or by outside source. 10.5, the X-ray acceptance program. So there's a specific section for this because that's the large equipment, right? So really expensive stuff. Big MRIs. I mean, how much does your average MRI cost per patient? It's quite a bit. So, medical radiographic system is procured through Defense Supply Center of Philadelphia or NavMed LogCom. An acceptance inspection will be performed within 30 days of installation. There may not be a key point to remember, there may not be a question. But I think it's definitely a question I put on the quiz. So, it has to be performed by either Biomed, NCIDC surveyor, which is also an instruction you'll run into later, so they may overlap. There's 2 NCIDC TAC 6250.1 and I think 6220.12. I don't know if they're right off the top of my head. They're either in yours or the first classes or both. Don't remember, watch out. Or via inter-service support agreement. If you can't find anybody else to do it, the COs can approve an inter-service support agreement and get somebody else who can do it, who is authorized and qualified and all that stuff, to actually come do it. 10.6, repair parts and supply shop management. Inventory controls will be maintained on items required for operation of Biomed. DMLSS sites are required to use DMLSS for repair parts. Inventory control. Ships must ensure that all configuration-worthy equipment are coordinated. Shipboard allowances list supported. Has to be on there also. Support of operating forces and activities who don't have a Biomed tech with them. That's what the article is for. It provides guidelines specifically for this. Commands of operating forces must comply with all requirements of the CNO3M system. Who hasn't heard of 3M? So you got to be like brand new to not hear 3M. Commanding officers of activities or elements of the operating forces not assigned BMET personnel may request the technical assistance of a Biomed tech to implement 3M as set forth in NAVC instruction, that one. And that's what you should remember. Gil, any questions? All right, if you can pass those quizzes perfectly, then you're good to go on this section. You may never need to look at it again. It's pretty easy. The basic guidelines to remember are section 7 are those forms. The SF forms are pretty big, and those timelines, the 2 categories. Out of here, I mean, it depends. You should probably remember that people who don't have a biomed tech personnel just have to follow the 3M system. That's pretty basic information. They can manage that. The X-ray acceptance program and the 30 days within installation. I think I put that as a question, and I definitely highlighted on here because I could really see that being a question on the exam. Right? That would be something down there. Contracts and warranties is pretty basic, and the biomed, the MEMS system. And the 3 types of maintenance requirements and 3 maintenance levels.
I think that was on the last exam.
Was it? There you go. Oh, something I asked them next door, which may or may not be legal, and I don't really care. Once you guys get done with the exam, if you think about it.
You just reviewing, dude?
Yeah.
Did you stop the stream or something?
No,
Oh, alright, Carlos over here.
I didn't touch it. It wasn't my fault. If you think about it, when you get done with the exam, you start thinking about everything in your head. Go back to your computer, pull up a Word doc, and start hacking down every single question with the answer, if you have it, that you remember. If you just have the question too, that's cool. If you do that and send it to us, then we can adapt our questions on the quizzes and tests. It'll more closely match, so that for future generations, because I hope you all make it, all of you will be second classes. I want to be looking at the 3.23% right here. Alright? Hopefully it'll be higher than that. But if you think about doing that and send it to us, that'd be awesome. Any other questions for me? Yeah, do the test.
Should write on page 13.
Hey, alright, I'm just gonna teach this class right here. Okay, so we're only worried about part 3, and like I said, the cover page doesn't have a PowerPoint. Just pull up the instruction and look at that forward. Okay? So like a page and a half, really. Not sure what they would draw from that, but read it, understand it, so that way you're prepared. Alright, so talking about SecNav M5210.1, part 3, okay? Records management manual, okay? Clicker decides not to work.
Hell yeah.
Here we go. Alright, so the big thing here is your SSIC codes. Alright? There's really honestly no good way to memorize this. There is a ditty on that Master Chief Breaker's ditty guide. Someone can pull it up and let me know. Something about Master Chief Breaker's study guide makes really good corpsmen or something like that. That helps you remember it. The way I do it is I've dedicated as many as I could to memory, and then of course I decipher, hey, I know that 5,000 is general admin, I know that 8,000 is ordnance, and 6,000 is medical, so if they ask me out 7,000 I can't remember it, then I can usually pick it out on the exam, okay? But these are good to know and learn. There was somebody else that talked about some ditty, but I can't remember. You got one?
It's not a ditty, but what's helped me is a lot of the instructions, depending on what they're about, follow the SSIC codes.
That's true too.
Medical's only 6,000, that's helped me.
Yep. Milper's man, most of those are 1,000. Military personnel records. 2,000 is your telecom. 3,000 is operation and readiness, just like N3. M3 is all operations. Your S3 in your regiment or battalion is operations. 4 logistics. 4,000 is logistics, just like your S4, N4, and M4 deals with the logistics, right? So try to incorporate it to what you do daily. 5,000 is general administration. 6,000 deals with us, of course. 7,000 is financial management. 8,000 is ordnance. I remember somebody saying that the 8 kind of looks like looking down the barrel of a gun, right? Ordnance. I don't know. Something jog your memory. 9,000 ships design material records. 10,000 general material. 11,000 facilities, activities. There was somebody that taught some. Didn't Gory go over this with you guys and put something on the board? Okay, so that was this class. All right. So we kind of have understanding. Any questions on SSIC codes? All right. Here's a ditty to help right here. Actually, there it is right there. Military tests require luck and Master Chief Breaker's outstanding study material for corpsman advancement. And of course, there you breaks it down. Sure. If it helps you. I'm not gonna lie, that didn't help me. I was told this a long time ago and I cannot dedicate this to memory. So, ready? Yeah, or a dirty ditty.
They always work.
I guess that's all it is for part 3.
Hell yeah.
So, any questions over SSIC codes? Okay. There's a good chance, like seriously, a good chance this will be on your quiz or exam. Alright, so understand, quiz. And it might ask you something like, what instruction does 5,210 deal with, right? 5210. General admin and management records. Okay? Alright, that was easy. Sweet. Alright, knock out the quiz. You guys want me to pull the cover page up so you guys have time?
Check it out. Logistics,
I called you.
I like the idea of double reason I remember the Coast Guard playing a Coast Guard team. They got
You never forget the coasters.
Alright, here's the forward. Okay?
Is it the word for?
Forward.
Forward.
Cover page.
Watch it be Washington, D.C.
So, Not sure. But read through it, understand it. If they ask you something out here, I can only imagine it has to deal with dates or chapters or 36 federal regulations.
I will say the second half page of the M5210, that's like always on there.
Right, that's also one of your references, so.
That's always on
But
there.
I'm saying like generalized questions. Good to go? Alright, go ahead and keep doing your quizzes. The next instructor should be here soon to teach you guys officer programs, NCC jump. So if you have questions about officer programs, she's probably a good person to ask. Okay. for you. Make sure you click all the way. Alright. Look at the next one, make sure it's down to you.
Morning.
Morning, Chief.
Alright, everybody dry except me. Alright, so I'm NCC Jones. I am, yes, NC. I know most of you corpsmen are not used to seeing a whole bunch of NCs or whatever, but I am an NC. I was a prior YNC, and before that I was a prior CTA, so I have a lot of experience in officer programs, setting everything up. I applied for warrant myself 3 times, didn't quite get it. That's okay. I work over at NCIDC, so where you check in with the PSs and your command career counselors, that's where I sit. If you come into the building, as soon as you make that right, I'm in the first office on your left. When you turn to the right, and then down to PSD. I did bring some business cards for you. That cell phone number on there is my personal cell phone number, so I will tell you ahead of time. I'm very bad about answering calls. That number isn't programmed in my phone. But if you text me and say, hey, Chief, this is HM, whoever, I just got a quick question, I'll call you right back and take care of you with no problems. If you have any questions about officer programs after this, or you want to sit down and just have me look at your record, or say, hey, Chief, can you help me out? I know I want to be an officer, but I don't know what would be the best route for me, then just grab my card and let me know, and then I'll make sure I get you set up, all right? Alright, so we're going to go over officer programs, which is OpNav Instruction 1420, Type 1, Bravo, Chapter 1. So all of the officer programs are actually inside of this instruction. So MECP, they give a little bit of brief on it. OCS, State 21, LDO, CWO, all of it is located inside this instruction. However, if you go to the NPC website, I know they got Wi-Fi here, but if you go to npc.navy.mil, at the top, it has, command career counseling, enlisted, and all of that. If you go to career counseling, commissioning programs, you'll come up to the web page that lists all of the officer programs, and then you'll be able to click specifically to what you want to do. All right, so the whole purpose is to give you concise information on commissioning programs open to enlisted personnel. If you decide that you want to get out and go reserves and then come back in as an officer, if the process is similar to the same way. This is just telling you how to do it while you're still on active duty on the enlisted side. Can you guys see over there? All right, so let's talk about the Naval Academy for a minute. Pretty sure everybody's heard of it. So when you go to the Naval Academy, you're a midshipman. You're awarded your bachelor's degree when you graduate. You'll graduate either as an ensign or a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. The minimum service obligation is 5 years active duty and 3 years IRR. The 3 years IRR is just basically your name going on a list in a big database, and then the Navy saying, hey, if World War III pops off, I can't get my recruiting numbers in fast enough, and I can't get enough people in, I can go to this big database and start pulling from these guys who are still owe me some time, and then you'll come back in and finish up that time. Will that happen? We don't know, but I highly doubt it. I hope it doesn't happen, but that's generally how the IRR works. Once those 3 years are up on the IRR, your names fall out of the database, and then you don't owe the Navy anything. Alright, so you go to NAPS, which is preparatory school. Preparatory school, and when you think about preparatory school, that's pretty much so you know how when you go and start high school, and in 9th grade, they start you off with the lower level math classes and say, hey, just gonna kind of get you orientated with high school, let you know how, freshman orientation and all that stuff. That's similar to what preparatory school is. It's getting you prepared for what you're gonna go through while you're at the Naval Academy. Some people make it through preparatory school, some people don't. All of those students are considered on an active duty enlisted status. And then once they complete the preparatory school, that's when they get appointed to the Naval Academy. All right, so you must be a U.S. citizen, no record of any disciplinary action within 3 years of your application. You have to be at least 17, but no more than 23. That cannot be waived. The reason it can't be waived is because of the stat limitations that they have for different officer programs. On induction day, you report to the Naval Academy and you take the oath of office as a midshipman. You guys have probably seen them walking around. They have like the little bitty anchor on there, and you're looking at them like, wait, what's that? Those are midshipmen, because during the summer, of their either their junior or senior year, they go out to the fleet to get like hands-on training. So if you've ever been on a ship before, you've probably seen a couple midshipmen when they came out for a couple weeks to do their training, or if you were on a base or somewhere, you've probably seen them. Can't be married, can't be pregnant, and you can't have any incurred obligations of parenthood. Sometimes this hurts a lot of sailors that want to do the Naval Academy because, you know, they may have had a kid when they were like 18, 19 years old, and then that will take them out of the running to go to the Naval Academy, but it doesn't stop them from being any other type of officer. You must be physically qualified, and you have to be nominated for SIGNAV for one or more of the nomination sources that are available. Alright, so any questions about the Naval Academy? Alright, if I start talking too fast, let me know. Alright, so for Officer Candidate School, OCS is just your initial commissioning program where you must already have your bachelor's degree. You'll go through a 12-week program. If you're E4 and below, you get automatically advanced to E5, and you'll get E5 pay and benefits while you're there. You'll graduate as an ensign, and you give the Navy 4 years back. So OCS is a little bit different because you have to have your degree before you go to OCS. Alright, basic eligibility, U.S. citizen, no disciplinary record within 3 years of your application. Like I said, you already have to have your bachelor's degree. Advanced degree is fine, but bachelor's degree is the minimum. You have to be at least 19 years old and meet the age limitations. The reason it says age limitation here is because the different designators in those officer programs have different age limitations. So for example, a supply may be 32, whereas a pilot may be 27. So you have to know which designator you want to go to know the age limitation. These guys here with OCS, some of the programs, depending on how their manning is, they may waive up to 2 years. So if you've done 2 years of active duty and you're getting close to your age limitation, they may be able to waive a couple of those months to get you over the hump so you'll qualify for it. But it's on a case-by-case basis. You must be physically qualified, and you must obtain at least a good low on your 2 most recent PFAs and be recommended by your CO. There's an application deadline for OCS, but applications are always accepted throughout the year. The website that I told you on the NPC website, it has the chart for OCS. So you may apply for OCS for, say, spec war this month and say you don't get it, but they may have a board next month, so your package could roll over for the following month. Whereas some of the programs like oceanography and some of the ones that they don't accept that many throughout the year, they may only meet, once per quarter and look at all packages that way. So that's what it's talking about, that applications are accepted throughout the year. Alright, so MECP for a lot of the medical guys. You get commissioned into the Nurse Corps commissioning opportunity. If you're selected, you go to a nationally accredited academic program leading to a bachelor's degree in nursing. You will receive all your full pay and allowances while you're in school, and the student pays for tuition, your fees, your books, and other expenses. You're eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill or the VEAP, but you can't use your TA. So let's stop for a second and talk about the student paying the tuition. So let's say you get picked up for this program, you're like, oh, I got picked up for it, but how am I going to pay this tuition? That's the whole reason why I joined the Navy. We've all heard of FAFSA, right? Alright, so you can apply for FAFSA. FAFSA can help you out. If you're like me and you got a family of 3 or 4 and you're the only one working, you may get a little bit more grant money. Also, you can go on different websites. FastWeb is the one that my kids use. I have 2 kids in college myself. FastWeb is the website that they use, and I make them apply for scholarships once a week. They have to sit there and apply for every single last scholarship that they qualify for. And they have to keep a piece of paper that says, okay, I applied for these, and then I'm going to follow up and check up on these later. The reason for that is because $500 here, $1,000 here, $200 there, or whatever, all that stuff adds up. And the more that adds up, it goes directly to the school. And some of the scholarships is just writing an essay. One of my daughters wanted to major in biology. So I asked her, why do you want to major in biology? Well, she wants to be a mortician and she wants to be an orthodontist. So that's why she's majoring in biology. So she wrote all of that out and they gave her a $500 scholarship. Alright. So you're required to complete your degree in 36 consecutive months. and to be a full-time student, and then once you're done, you get commission as an instant. So sometimes with the 36 months, I know a lot of sailors, they'll come to me and say, hey Chief, you know, I wanna do MECP, but they just started college. Some of those classes, like your general studies classes, we've all heard of CLEP, right? So instead of spending time in the classroom, taking English, you know, history, some of your lower level classes, you could just take your CLEP exam and test out of those. That was the way I was able to get my bachelor's degree in 17 months. And I joined the Navy at 18 like many of you did. I CLEP'd out of a lot of my general studies classes so that when it was time for me to really buckle down, only thing I really had to focus on was my core classes and my upper level classes that were related to my major. Alright, so the basic requirement must be a U.S. citizen, can't have any disciplinary action within the past 3 years, be on active duty, Navy Reserve or Marine Corps. You must be able to complete everything prior to your 42nd birthday, high school diploma or GED, physically qualified and recommended by your CO. The deadline for these applications is announced every year in the NAVADMIN that comes out. If you look at the previous, if you want to get a jump start, if you look at the previous year's NAVADMIN, just kind of look at the calendar and you can almost guesstimate when these applications are due because it's usually around the same time, give or take a day or so later, depending on how the calendar works out. All right, so MSc IPP, the Medical Service Corps In-Service Procurement Program. You must already have your degree for this one or have some college credits working towards that degree. And you must be able to complete your degree anywhere from 2 to 4 months. 24 to 48 months, depending on the type of program that you go into. So of course, some of the medical degrees may take a little bit longer because you have your labs and all that stuff. So what you have to do is, if you know this is what you want to, you know, gear yourself towards, you have to really sit down with your student counselor and say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is the program that I want to apply for. You know, my birthday falls here. This is the application deadline. Sometimes they can sit down and put you on a path to get you within this time frame prior to the application period. But it all depends on you sitting down, talking to them, and figuring out which school is going to give you the bigger bang for your butt. Because all schools don't take all of our credit, so you have to find the one that's going to take the most from you. All right, so you'll get your full pay and allowances while you're there. You'll still be in your the same enlisted pay grade that you are, and then you compete for advancement. So if you're an E5 and you're eligible for E6, you'll take the E6 exam while you're in school. If you're advanced, then you get advanced to E6 while you're still in school, and you continue on until you get commissioned. You are required to be a full-time student and attend on a year-round basis beginning the fall of the selected year, and you get commissioned as a lieutenant junior grade or a lieutenant for the pharmacy program, MSc U.S. Navy. All right, so you must be a U.S. citizen for this one. 3 years, no NJPs or anything. Must be an E5 to E9. Can't have reached your 42nd birthday, and you must possess the qualifying degree at a minimum or a transferable college credit, and then physically qualified or recommended by your CO. And then for this program too, the same thing. The application deadline is posted in the NAVADMIN every year. So LDO and warrant officer program. So for these are more so for your senior enlisted people. This is E6 and above for LDO. For warrant officer, it's chief and above. All right, so the chiefs, if you want to apply for LDO, you must take the chief exam and be selection board eligible. So on the test, I'm sure you've heard when you're bubbling in, they're like, hey, if you're taking the test for LDO, you must bubble in the circle that says, you know, taking the test for LDO purposes only. So that's the reason for that. So if you take the chief exam for LDO purposes, you must submit a package for the LDO program. All right, same thing for CWOs. Once you're a chief, there's no more tests for us, so we're just applying for the program, putting our package together. It's open to active duty and civil res. You do not have to have your bachelor's degree, however, it is strongly encouraged. The deadline for LDO and warrant is basically, it comes out in the NAVADMIN. Usually it's October 1st of that year, and then they give you until like December of that same year or January of the following year to submit whatever is missing So for chiefs, sometimes those guys get, the first classes, they get their evals in November. And then the people who get their evals in September. Depending on when their package is mailed off, they may not be able to make it in time. So you'll be able to send a supplemental to send everything up, whatever's missing. Alright, so no NJPs in 3 years must be on active duty. CELRES can apply as an inactive duty board. E7 through E8 for CWO. E6 board eligible for LDO. You must have at least 8 years in service and no more than 16. For warrant officer and LDO, you must have at least 2 years time and grade, but no more than 19 total. And you have to have your high school diploma or GED, physically qualified, and a SAT medium at the time of appointment and recommended by your CO. So for the reason why the time frame is so small for these guys, like 8 to 16 years, and you're thinking like, man, you know, some chiefs, they don't make chief until they're like 19, 20 years in. Well, for warrant, if you look at Title 10, you have to be commissioned. Well, you have to go through all of the CWO2, CWO3, CWO4, CWO5. There's a statute of limitations for that. So they try, when they picking up these guys for commissioning for CWO, they want to give you the fairest shot. So everybody wants to go as high as possible. Nobody joined the Navy to stop at E5, right? If we join enlisted, we either want to make it to be a master chief or we want to convert over and go officer. If they pick you up for commissioning too late in the game, based off of the way the timeline is for them when they pick up their rank, because W2 to W3 is automatic. But for the other, for W3 to W5, it could be anywhere from 3 to 7 years. If they pick you up too late in the game, you'll stat out before you even get a shot at making CWO4 or CWO5. So they want to keep it fair for you, is the basic reason for that. LDO, they taking them a whole lot younger now, just so that they don't come in and do the bare minimum and then go home. So you want to keep that knowledge pot kind of fresh. So we're taking them younger so we can keep them at a longer time, for a longer time. All right, so the basic requirements: U.S. citizen, no NJP in 3 years, must be on active duty. E7 through E9 or E6 selected for E7. So let's say you have a E6 that took the test for LDO purposes and for chief, and then they get picked up for warrant. They can, serve 1 year as a chief, and then that following year they'll be commissioned as a warrant. Same thing for LDO. They can get picked up for, chief, and then serve that 1 year as a chief, or 6 months or whatever as a chief, and then get commissioned as an LDO. I've seen it happen both ways. 12 years minimum. 22 years max time served. Reason for this is because some of the E7s and E8s, E9s, they pick up rank kind of early. So you may have a master chief sitting at 22 years or 21 years or something like that, depending on how fast they picked up their rank. High school diploma or GED, physically qualified, SAT medium at the time of appointment. All right. The active duty flying CWO program is still under status to create flying specialists. So basically, they're still working on the program. All right, so Seaman to Admiral. State 21. It's comprised of 2 components. So you have the Naval Science Institute, which is an 8-week course that's taught at the Fundamental Corps of Navy Officer. You have full-time enrollment up to 36 months at any NROTC affiliated university. So a lot of times, what I've seen was sailors will get picked up for this, and the school that they want to go to don't have the NROTC program, but they do have a cross-town affiliation with the university that has the ROTC program. So what they would do is they would go over here to this school to do their studies, and then for the ROTC portion, they'll go over to this school because the schools have like an agreement with each other, like, hey, your students can come over here and do the ROTC portion. So if this is something you're interested in, when you look at the schools, see which schools have the cross-town affiliate, is what it's called, in case the school doesn't have ROTC. This is another program where you receive all your full pay benefits and allowances. So if you get sick, you need to go to medical, you don't have to worry about, man, I'm a full-time college student, I don't have any insurance or whatever. You keep everything. This is beneficial for a lot of sailors who have families, because a lot of us come in, we get married, we have kids, but we want to continue our career. And this helps you out, so you don't lose any of your pay or anything, your family doesn't lose anything. You receive up to $10,000 per year paid to the university. Anything that's left over will be paid by the student. So let's say the university is like $12,000, you get $10,000 from the Navy. So that other $2,000 is what you'll be responsible for. But remember earlier, we talked about FAFSA and those scholarships. So that takes up that extra $2,000 that you may need. And you can't use, down here at the bottom it says you can't use your TA or your Montgomery GI Bill. Alright, so the basic requirements: U.S. citizen recommended by your CO, serving on active duty or Navy Reserve, high school diploma, or GED, must be able to complete your bachelor's degree in 36 months. This is huge. I have seen a sailor almost get discharged from the program because she failed one of her classes and it was going to throw her behind. So I ended up working with the school with her to have her pay for one of the classes out of pocket and take it online to make it up so that she can meet this requirement and not lose her permission. Must be completed by your 27th birthday, and they'll grant that waiver. Remember I said some of the programs will do a 2-year waiver. This is one of them where they'll waive up to 2 years. You have to have a minimum SAT score of 500 on your math and 500 on critical reading or verbal. I know you're probably thinking like, man, I got out of high school a couple years ago. I don't know what I got on my SATs. It's okay. There's study guides that are available for you for free. If you go to Military One Source website, you'll be able to download all those study guides. It'll guide you to it. And you can download study guides, get a tutor if you need one. All that stuff is on there for free, even for your dependents. On the ACT, same thing. You need a minimum of a 21 on your math or a 20 on English. All right, so the applications for State 21 must be received by 1 July of the year that the application desires accepted. So 1 July of this year, if you want to be accepted this year, 1 July of next year. So just keep this in mind. If you want to apply for State 21, July is always going to be the deadline for this program. Any questions? All right, so I'll get you and then I'll get you. Yes.
So if you, while you're enlisted and you go and get your bachelor's degree, what programs offer direct commissioning?
So OCS is going to be, it depends on like the type of officer you want to be. So I always tell people, you got to know the type of officer that you want to be. That's at the bare minimum. If you just want to be an officer and you don't know the type of officer that you want to be, you'll get over into that wardroom and then you'll feel like, man, I wish I would have done this program instead. So there's, unrestricted and restricted. Some type of officers can command that seat. Some officers will never command that seat. And if your overall goal is to be the CO of USS Never Die, then you need to know, the different commissioning programs for that. A lot of those guys out there are swole officers. But if you tell me like, hey, I want to be a neurosurgeon or I want to be a medical doctor or something like that, then you want to look at the officer programs that are more geared toward the medical side. If you already have your bachelor's degree, I can tell you OCS is the first one that jumps out because you already have your degree. State 21, MSc, MECP, MSc, IPP, a lot of those are for people who are working towards their degree. Yes.
I noticed for some of them that they had, like, once you completed the program, you had an obligated time in service. Was there a time in service for the IPP program?
All of them have a minimum.
I don't remember.
I don't think it says, but I think it's 4 years active, 4 years.
Yeah, it's not on here. Most 90% of them is a minimum of 4 years because they want to get that time back
Right.
that they at least put you through school.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have one about so you said if somebody already has their bachelor's, so if you have your bachelor's in computer science, what kind of, if you go to the OCS program,
Yeah.
do they offer for computers?
You gotta know the designator that you want. So that's the thing.
Designator
Yeah.
policy.
So if you go to this instruction, the 1420, in the back there's a tab. Not a tab, but there's an appendix, and it lists out all the different designators. So 7411 is admin, but that's admin warrant. So you have to know the type of, when I was telling him the designator that you want, you need to look at that. Now, there's a chart in there that has the rates and which officer programs go more toward the rates. So if you have a bachelor's degree in computer science, you're gonna look at some of the rates that are more geared toward computers, you know, your ETs, your CTAs, those guys like that, and then you can say, okay, well, these guys are competing in this designator, or this is the designator that I want. Now, will it be competitive for you? What's your rate?
Corpsman.
So will it be competitive for you being a corpsman and competing against these guys who have been working in the Navy's computer field already, and you're trying to be some type of computer officer? Yes, it will be competitive, but it's no more different than me being an admin type saying, hey, I want to go be a medical officer. I mean, you guys seen the results come out, and you're like, hey, wait a minute, how did that YN get picked up for a medical program? Well, that YN went to school and busted their butt and got the grades that they needed to compete with all of the corpsmen that were trying to apply for the commissioning programs.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, that's all I got for you. I did leave my business cards up here. If you want to just pass it back or whatever, don't worry about it. I got plenty. And that's, I'm going to go next door, answer these guys' questions, and that's all I have for you.
Do you have the NCIDC toolbox already?
Is it like it's
No, it's just in case it's like a document. It's like pretty much everything.
Have you seen Mill Suite? Mill Suite? That's where you do your FSA, but Mill Suite, the community managers for like healthcare admin and everything, they have like sites on there. It's basically like SharePoint. Get on there, you can access it. I sent it to him, I was gonna start a healthcare admin, and it had all the like
What is this thing?
The NCIDC toolbox. It's kind of like, it's pretty much a go-by for like step-by-step of what you need to do for the process. Not necessarily. So that's all that stuff like that is all in the instruction. It's just more of the like general to how to, and that's the bottom. It's also like a timeline. So like you need to make sure you're working on your appraisal letter by this day. You also like your personal statement should be done by this time to kind of help save it. And also just apply for OCS this last cycle. So if I have any questions about the process and stuff.
Yeah.
No, not.
Chief's the guy.
I wish I was a little bit younger, a little bit earlier in my career. This thing has real problems.
I'm looking for what to do, but I don't want to do the IP program. I want to do the NCIDC. So I can get out and, you know, go do my own thing and do some lab work.
They pick up year round too, so.
Right. The only thing is I'm supposed to get out in December 2020, which is when I'm supposed to graduate with my bachelor's.
VCR?
Yes. I don't know how it works as far as I can get all my prerequisites done
Right.
in order to apply for the school and be accepted.
Exactly.
But for that program, they want acceptance letter, like they want everything done.
Yes, I was supposed to get out in August. At the same time I finished my bachelor's, so in order to apply for those programs, I had to extend out in which meant
I just don't know how they're going to do that. Well, because, you know, PA schools don't start in January, so they start in the fall. And if I'm getting out in December, are they just going to extend me until that August? Or, you know, are they going to, because they've already been extended at the hospital twice.
it's tricky.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I'm like, you know, because I don't want to, not essentially waste my time, because I'm going to end up doing this either way.
Right.
But, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you just have to be there. It could be commit to a minimum more enlistment time and you have more time to apply for the cycle, it's definitely a decision that you have to make.
Yeah. We'll see how it works out.
It's a lot of mentors in there for the DA program
Yeah.
who have been going through already for like mentorship.
Nobody. No. Nobody.
Hey, you
I
guys
know.
just want to go now? Yeah, just go knock it out.
Yeah, I
It's,
know. I'm not gonna blame it. Obviously,
right.
but I was away from everybody and everything, like a wounded warrior in like a little tiny clinic for the first like 2.5 years. Like,
Okay.
I didn't get out and do anything until I got to this. And then they threw all this stuff at me, and I was like, I've never done this, ever. So it kind of sucks being so far into my first contract, and I don't. So I'm like, well,
Yes, it's fair. I can give you a mentor. He's a super great dude. He's a PA now. He just got picked up 2 cycles ago, and he's here only June. He's a former switch dude, came from SEAL Team 2. Super great guy.
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's super sick. He loves helping people, guiding people the whole way. So
Yeah,
he's a
that's
great guy.
great.
It's, oh yeah, you don't have to. I think it's second at 1720.4 alpha. Or no, opt average.
So I will be finishing my bachelor's until December 2020, but the HSCP program wants you to be completed with your bachelor's and accepted into your PA program in order to sign that binding contract for that program. Oh my gosh.
But you don't want to re-enlist at that point, so you don't put yourself too far.
Right.
So you should just re-enlist, package your way.
So they,
October, so you should re-enlist October, this year.
It was weird, right?
October 2021 is when and then you either get picked up or you get fucked out.
that makes sense.
Just re-enlist early, you don't have to wait all the way to the EAS to re-enlist.
So instead of like you don't, it's not tacked on to your first contract of like 5 years, it's just.
No, it's not. No, you just kind of like re-enlist as long as you go beyond your original EAS PRT. Then you can do that. A lot of people do that like in their reasons, whether they graduate school or start EAP or something like that. You don't have to wait all the way to the end to re-enlist. So I would just talk to your clerk. Re-enlist like me, 2 years into yourself. And it starts with that. It doesn't like tag on.
So would it be like end of 2022 that maybe that individual?
Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna help you with this. People are like, no, don't do like 2 years, like somebody on that. Yeah, they like do that. That's what you might go into. When you
Yeah, you good? Right,
So
starting
I
to
was actually supposed to go to the so I do have that in here, bonding. will be changed in 2020, but we're trying to stick to an idea.
Alright, let's go to H2. Next class.
Hey, good morning. I'm H2 Petrie. I'm with 2nd CB. I've been in the Navy for 15 years. I know you're like, why am I going to listen to somebody tell me about advancement that's like 1 year away from higher tenure? What's the reason that I might be able to help you out? I've seen a lot of advancements, right? So I'm pretty good at being able to point out what's important and how the Navy thinks as far as what they're going to put into a question. Now, doesn't mean I'm going to get them right on the exam all the time, right? But I know I've seen a lot of questions. As far as teaching this course, I'm not a slide reader, right? Some of it's unavoidable and I might have to read some things off the slide, but keep in mind for EAP, always, right? I'm not here to teach you this stuff. You got to read these instructions, like there's no way around that. What I'm going to hit are the key points and what I've seen before and what I think can be put into a question. Good to go? All right, let's get started. So, OpNav instruction 1720.4 Alpha, the Navy's suicide prevention program. A little bit of background. Suicide obviously is a preventable personal loss that impacts unit readiness, morale, and mission effectiveness. We've all been through suicide classes at least once a year, and then if you have some kind of event, you're going to get more. Okay, it's nothing that's new to us. Some of the risk factors, and there's more than this, but you've talked about them, I'm sure, several times. Relationship disruption, substance abuse, financial problems, legal problems, mental health problems, operational stress, all sorts of things. So you need to be able to intelligently talk about the risk factors, as I'm sure most of us can. Also, you need to be able to talk about how to combat suicide, right? How to get ahead of it. Factors like positive attitude, solid spirituality, good problem-solving skills, coping mechanisms, healthy stress control. What are some examples of healthy stress control? Give me one. Somebody off the top of your head. You've seen a million of them. All right, like maybe just one person at a time now.
Working out.
Working out. It's usually the first one you get. Go for a run. Makes you feel better. Not me, but whatever. What's another one? What's another one? Healthy stress control. What's another one?
Breathing techniques.
Breathing techniques. Meditation. Whatever you're into, it makes you feel good. Health and wellness. Highlight that. Write it down, whatever. Preventing suicide in the Navy begins with the promotion of health and wellness. Again, we're trying to get ahead of this thing. Terms. Suicide. Suicide-related communications. Any interpersonal act of imparting, conveying, or transmitting suicide-related thoughts, wishes, desires, or intent not to be construed as the actual self-inflicted behavior of injury. Again, communication about suicide, training on suicide, how to talk to people who you think might be at risk for suicide. A suicide plan, a suicide threat, self-explanatory, right? Threatening suicide. A suicidal plan is completely different. We're all cornered in this room, correct? All right, so you got suicidal plans. We should all know, you take somebody in, are they just threatening suicide and talking about it, thinking about it? Or do they actually have a plan? Somebody actually has a plan that they've thought out that's getting way more serious. Self-harm's another one. Self-inflicted, potentially injurious behavior. So, cutting, self-mutilation of any kind, that's again, that person's very at risk. All right, 4 elements of the Navy Suicide Prevention Program. Obviously, they're in red. They're very important. You got training, intervention, response, and reporting. Training, we're sort of doing it right now. We're hitting the wave tops of all this stuff. And again, you get your annual training for suicide, and then you got your subsequent training that you do with your units. Training, increasing awareness of suicide concerns, improving wellness, and again, teaching those things to get ahead of suicide. Intervention, ensuring timely access to needed services and having a plan for action for crisis response. So in your units, I guarantee you somewhere you have a plan. You know how to get access to mental health, whether it be inpatient or outpatient. You have your SOPs for if somebody comes in, suicidal ideation or what have you. It's very important. Response, assisting families, units, and service members affected by suicidal behaviors and or actual suicide. You have a suicide in your unit, what always happens? Stand down, right? Everybody loves a good stand down. You have a stand down, and then you have the response factors, which are assisting the families, grief counseling for the unit, all that good stuff. That falls under the response. And then reporting incidents of suicide and suicide-related behaviors. That's something that the chain of command, obviously with the increase in suicide that we've had over the years, reporting up the chain of command is really important. All right, it's going to go in detail into the 4 elements. I'm not going to read all this stuff off. You need to know what the 4 components are and what they entail. Okay? At least annually, we talked about that, right? Suicide training is going to be at least annually for the active, reserve, and reserve service members and Navy civilians. At least annually, and typically within, I believe it's 90 days of a session. So you check into a command, they have a certain amount of time to do that initial suicide training as well. Good? Again, training is all about getting ahead of the issue. Alcohol, substance abuse training, healthy lifestyle, managing finances and stress, conflict and relationships, all that good stuff. Intervention. COs shall have written suicide prevention and crisis intervention plans that include the process for identification referral. Again, this is your unit's sort of SOP to try and react to a suicide situation, whether it be suicidal ideation, a suicide plan, or what have you. And it's the commanding officer's responsibility to have that in writing. Okay? All right, response. In the event, like we talked about, in the event of an actual suicide or serious suicide-related behavior, families and affected personnel shall be provided support by the command and local mental health resources. It's just like I said earlier, grief counseling, knowing where the mental health professionals are located, how to get a hold of them, how to support anyone that was affected by suicide. And like you've seen in every suicide training you've ever done ever, suicide affects an entire unit. Reporting. Suicide is a self-inflicted death with evidence of intent to die. Obviously, that's the definition. In instances of suicide and undetermined deaths for which suicide has not been excluded by the medical examiner, command shall complete the Department of Defense suicide event report within 60 days. Write that down. Highlight it, bedazzle it, whatever you're into. It's important. 60 days. Commands are advised to maintain copies of medical, dental, and service records for 6 to 8 weeks after the member's death in order to complete the DoD SCR, that's this thing, and respond to unforeseen questions. All right, so those 2 numbers, anytime you see numbers or timelines, typically it's really important. That's a potential test question right there. So how long do they have to submit this SCR in an instance of suicide and or undetermined deaths where suicide can't be ruled out? 60 days. How long do you got to hold on to medical and dental records for those situations? 6 to 8 weeks. Good to go? All right. All right, here's another number. That SCR shall be completed for all suicide attempts by active and reserve component service members as determined by component medical authority within 30 days of medical evaluation. All right, it's up to the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations to establish a suicide prevention program policy. As executive agent, the Office of the Chief of Naval Operations, OPNAV, Personal Readiness and Community Support Branch shall develop policy guidance for the Navy Suicide Program, provide educational support to commands, basically give all the tools to commands. It's up to the Office of Chief of Naval Operations, the CNO, to put those tools into the toolboxes of the commands. It's that simple. All right, Chief of UMed shall develop procedures and policy to ensure service members who exhibit suicide-related ideations, communications, or behaviors are properly evaluated and treated. Obviously, once a suicide-related ideation or communication or behavior has been exhibited, it falls in the hands of medical professionals. So naturally, it's going to fall under UMed. OPNAV, Chief of Chaplains, the N97 shall consult with UMed, right? So, who in here has not dealt with some type of suicide situation since you've been in the military? Sorry, raise your hand. All right, we got one. So the majority, right? Always, as one of the resources, we're going to get a chaplain involved, right? So this is nothing new to us. Chaplain's going to work with medical. Medical's going to maybe refer or work with the chaplain. Just another resource that's available. All right, Naval Education and Training Command. We've all seen GMTs and face-to-face training. Naval Education and Training Command, they're the ones obviously responsible for creating the actual courses for suicide prevention. All right, Commander of Navy Recruiting Command, this starts even before somebody joins. They get pre-screened, right? Everybody gets pre-screened before you come in the military to check for any kind of pre-existing mental illness. That's the responsibility of Navy Recruiting. All right, commanding officers, ensure an effective suicide prevention program is established and maintained at the specific command, right? It goes from the CNO all the way down to BUMED, to the chaplains, to recruiting. Everybody's involved. And then obviously with the specific command, it's the CO's responsibility to ensure that they have a good suicide prevention program. Right. Suicide prevention coordinators shall become thoroughly familiar with all the contents of the things we just talked about. Receive training as soon as possible after they've been designated as a unit suicide prevention coordinator, and schedule and announce suicide prevention training, and can be prepared as needed to conduct their own training. I know in CEB, what was the name of that class? You guys remember? There's a big suicide. Anyway, in my unit, there's a new program, and you might know, I don't know, that they rolled out to train sailors and Marines on being like suicide counselors. Say again? Safe Talk. Safe Talk is what it is. And CEB was one of the first units they tried it on, but again, that's just another example of the Navy and the Marine Corps rolling out new programs to make individual people suicide counselors. Right? It's everybody's responsibility. It's not like management. All right, individual service members. What's the responsibility of the service member? Somebody raise your hand and tell me. We don't have to read it off this slide. What's the responsibility of the service member when it comes to suicide? Report it. Whenever you're ready. What's up? Report it. Yeah, report it. What else? If you see something, say something. We've all seen those fancy signs here on Camp Lejeune. What else? What's up? Keep track of your friends, right? You got to know the warning signs, especially as medical professionals, right? You got to know the warning signs and know what's the other important part. We said report it. That's pretty generic. Know the signs. That's semi-generic. What else is important, especially as foreman?
Intervention.
Okay. Take care of yourself. Yep. You guys are all giving good answers. They're Sunday school answers, but you guys know what a Sunday school answer is?
Jesus.
We're in Sunday school, yeah, right? Teacher asks you a question, you're like, does Jesus love you? What's the answer? That Petrie kid, he's got God in his heart. Alright, so we're getting off track. Alright, the other main thing, right, especially as medical professionals, is to know the resources, right? How good am I as a foreman if somebody comes to my unit with suicidal ideation and I have no clue how to get a hold of mental health, who to talk to, what the resources are. So that's really important, and that's on you, the serviceman. Find some resources. We got some websites. What's the one generic Sunday school website you can always refer to? Military resource. Yeah. All right. Questions for me? That was pretty down and dirty, but I don't like to read through all the slides. Those are the important things. Again, anytime you see numbers, right, and timelines, you're going to want to write those down. You're going to highlight. We good? All right. Thank you.
Next is the ORMC probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna take NCC down to me, Mr. Rose. This is straight right.
No. No.
Alright, is everybody, for the most part? Alright, so, you wasn't here yesterday, H1 over headquarters battalion. So, what we'll teach you today is ORM, alright? So, same stuff that I said yesterday. I'm not going to reteach all this to you, alright? A lot of this stuff is just straight memorization. And if you've gone through this instruction, there's a lot of, like, items that are listed, right? Different steps. So what's something you can use to help you remember those things? Ditties, right? Because there's a bunch of acronyms and stuff in this, all right? So I would advise you, start looking at those, come up with these little ditties. I got a few on here. If you've got some, share them with each other, all right? That's probably the easiest way to remember this stuff, all right?
The mouse has to be on the PowerPoint. I think is how it said it. I should put it on.
Gotcha. Alright. So the purpose, alright? So why do we do ORM, alright? Why do we have an instruction for that specifically? Alright, to establish policy and guidelines, procedures, and guidance. Alright, for everything we do, there's always some type of policy or guideline that we have to follow, right? So just like any other instruction, that is its exact purpose, alright? Standardize ORM. To standardize it so that everyone follows the same process, right? Alright, so whether you are in the Army, Air Force, or whatever, the process is pretty much still identical, right? And then establish training. You guys do ORM training? You should, every year, right? So, it's to establish that, alright? They put out the guidance, training is required for ORM. Purpose, alright? Risk is inherent in all tasks, training, missions, operations, and personal activities. So what does ORM do? Reduce the risk by, what is that up there?
IMNs.
Alright? It's a variation of it, right? It's the same thing, okay? Weigh risk against task benefits. The only thing you replace that with is supervise, okay? So if you know IM is, worst case scenario, all you're doing is replacing weigh risk against benefits. Risk outweigh the cost, right? So, identify the hazards, assess the risk, make risk decisions, implement controls, and then weigh risk against task benefits. Any questions about that? Pretty easy, right? Alright, so that is the ORM process and what it does for each event. Now, like it says, for all tasks and training events, what do I have to do for it? You have to do an ORM, right? Alright, there's a checklist in place and things that you have to do before you want to do any type of event. If you want to go out and do a hike, you have to do an ORM for it. Okay? And everyone has to be briefed up on it, from the highest level to the lowest level. Make sense? Alright, the 4 pillars. Alright? Acronym I go with for this one is PET. P-E-T-T. Alright, so policy and leadership. Training and education, evaluation, accountability, tools and resources. Alright, so this is the strategy used in order to make this ORM process work. Alright, the policy's put out, the leadership puts it out, they brief everybody. Okay? Training and education, we do it every year, annual training, ORM training. Okay? Evaluation, accountability. How do we evaluate that ORM process? How do you think we do that? Say again? Risk assessments, okay? And so how do we know if that works or not? Okay? You implement it. You go out, say you set up an ORM for a hike, right? Inevitably, something's going to happen. Okay, somebody's going to roll their hand. There are certain risks that you're not going to be able to get rid of, right? So, what do? For the next evolution, it's like, hey, everyone's briefed up on it, and you add those risks as they come up. Okay, so there's a continuous process that you continue to update. All right, that's how we evaluate it. And then the tools and resources. All right, so all those checklists, the actual instruction itself, and the guidance put out, those are your resources in order to establish ORM and apply it to any of your events. All right, responsibilities. CNO, he usually puts out what? Policy and guidance. All right, that's pretty much the same across the board for anything. All right, if you see anything in your exam about what does the CNO do, issues policy and guidance. Alright, that's where it all comes from. Alright, that level. Now your commanders of the Naval Safety Center, they're going to actually manage these programs, okay? So each subordinate command will report to Commander Navy Safety Center. Alright, so anything like you have safety officers in each one of those units, they report to the CO, your commander. The commander reports to who? The Naval Safety Center for all safety matters, right? Here's all your forms, okay? They're all OTNAV forms, okay? 3502/1/2/3. One's for evolutions and your assessments. Alright, one is a terrible evolution for your assessments, and one's the actual program assessment. Alright, 3502/1/2/3. Your fundamentals, alright? Concepts, principles, levels, and process. Alright, these are the fundamentals in order to have an effective ORM process. Alright, acronym that I use for that is COUPLE, CPPL. Some people might remember that. Alright, helps me remember it. So, we'll talk about all these different ones here in a second. So your ORM concept, what is a concept? It's a decision-making tool to increase effectiveness by identifying, assessing, and managing the risks. Alright, so how do we increase the effectiveness of these programs? We just talked about one of them, right? Continuous assessments and evaluations of your ORMs, right? That is one of those processes. Your ORM principles, alright, there's 4 basic ones. So accept the risk when benefits outweigh the cost, accept no unnecessary risk, anticipate and manage risk by planning, and make risk decisions at the right level. Alright, so let's break it down. Someone tell me what, in your own words, what does accept risk when benefits outweigh the cost mean to you? Go ahead.
Losing one guy to save the whole platoon.
Okay, so give me an example of that. Think about a training evolution and when that would apply.
Probably not accepting more training.
Okay, you got an example?
I have an example from basically a movie. Whenever the ship was going down and sinking, they were trying to get the guy out of, it was in a submarine, the bay was flooding, so there was 3 guys down there, so we ended up closing the hatch to save the ship.
Okay, so that's an example of that. Alright.
Crimson Tide.
Accept no unnecessary risk. Somebody tell me what that means to you. Accept no unnecessary risk. Say that again?
Not playing with scorpions.
Okay, so our Marines do that crap all the time, right? That's why the foreman is your job to enforce safety, right? So, how do you do that? You educate your Marines. Don't play with scorpions. Leave the snakes alone. That type of stuff, alright? Those are risks that can be avoided, right? By a simple period of instruction. Alright, don't mess with the wildlife. See what I'm saying? Alright, that's how you mitigate those risks. Anticipate and manage risk by planning. What does that mean?
Foresee events in the future.
Okay.
So if you're going on a hike, dehydration, bring extra IV bags.
There you go. Alright? And we do that before, so a hike is a very good example, alright? So before every hike, we usually have a checklist of things that we go down and freaking make sure we do, right? We make sure that our bags are stocked a certain way, we have all this stuff, we have ice chest, we have all this other stuff before we go out, right? It's a continuous checklist that you go down and make sure that, hey, I got everything I need for that. Alright, you're anticipating the worst case scenario for everything. Are you going to catch everything at one time? No. Someone's still going to roll their ankle. You may still have a heat case, but you're going to be prepared because you have the basic stuff. And then next time, alright, you've been exposed to that specific scenario, you know how to plan for it. Make sense? But you always prepare for the worst, anticipate and manage those risks by planning. And make risk decisions at the right level. What does that mean? What's that?
Start from the lowest level possible.
Okay. So, an example. So, with the hike, right, with the route, who do you think would be in charge of picking that route? CO. Company commander, all right, using the CO has to be better than the CO, right? Okay, so that is a risk in that route planning that he makes at his level. Does the PFC have anything to do with that? No, right? But what decision can he make at his level? Maybe hydrate the night before. Alright? Exactly. So know at those levels there are certain risks that you can manage those levels, alright? Same as platoon sergeants. They manage those levels at their levels. It's their job to ensure that their platoon is going to go on the hike, right? So they make the decisions on their level. Make sense? All right, the levels of ORM. We got 3: in-depth, deliberate, time critical. What does in-depth mean? You have time to do it, right? Typically, in-depth means very particular. All right, maybe have an event that has a lot of moving parts, and you're going to need time to plan that out. Okay, so that is your in-depth. Right answer is required for mission success. Okay, so you have to be very precise about what you want to get out of that training, so you have to have a specific ORM that takes time to develop. All right. Deliberate. Deliberate means you have ample time to apply the risk management process. Okay, but not as much as an in-depth. And then we get to time critical. What do you think that means? Literally, you have little to no time to get this done, right? So you have to make decisions right then and there. All right. So you're in depth. You have a bunch of time. Okay. You're deliberate, a shorter amount of time, and your time critical. It's like right then and there. I have to make that decision. Everybody see the difference? Yeah. All right. We talked about that 5-step process. What is the ditty for that? IMAs, right? Identify the hazard, assess the hazards, make the risk decisions, implement those controls, and then supervise. Okay? So how am I identifying the hazards? What do I do? That's at the beginning, right? So what am I doing? Okay? Maybe you're in a route recon of a hike, right? Keep bringing up the hike. That's an easy one, right? So you identify all those hazards on the hike, right? Maybe environmental factors, the weather, all right, trip hazards, those types of things, all right? That is you identifying potential hazards, okay? Assess those hazards. Now you look at each one of those and say, okay, if this happens, what do I do for that? Okay, what is the response to one of those hazards? Okay, how do I mitigate it? Make those risk decisions, okay? As those things happen, you make a decision on what to do next, right? You should have already established before you go out on these events. Implement controls. The controls are how you manage those risks, all right? How you mitigate those, all right? So implement those controls that you set in place in order to mitigate the hazards. And then supervise. What does supervise mean? Make sure it happens, right? Okay, so I can give you the blueprint here. Go do all this stuff, but if you're not out there making sure that it happens, all right, PFC, Lance Corporal, wherever can do whatever they want, right? Are they going to actually follow the instructions you gave them? Some might, some might not. But the minute that something goes bad and you're responsible for that, it's on you, right? So as a leader, it's your job to supervise to make sure that it is happening at all levels, all right? Documentation. So you got 2 methods: tracks and community hazard tracking database. Tracks is just a website software that you compiled all this data and it keeps it in like a repository, right? Your community hazard tracking database. It's just what it says. It's just a database that they have. Usually the safety center has like a huge database of all this stuff. All right. So you have web-based, and then your actual tracking database. Hazard assessment. All right. So severity. Severity means how bad, right? So category 1, usually loss of ability to accomplish the mission, death, unacceptable collateral damage. So category 1, severity, way up here, right? Bad stuff, okay? Death is pretty bad, right? You don't want somebody to die on a training evolution or exercise, right? So that'll be severity category 1, all right? If it degrades your ability to accomplish the mission, say you don't break water out, all right, for a week op, does that degrade the mission? Yeah, right? You can't do a training op without water, correct? So that completely halts the operation. Okay, so that would be a Cat 1. Cat 2, degraded mission capability, severe illness or injury, significant collateral damage. All right, so this is severe, right? But you can still see injuries. You can definitely see some collateral damage, and it could slow down the operations. Okay, say the risk is water, right? And Cat 1 is we're not getting water at all. All right, Cat 2, hey, water's an issue, but you know it's available, 5 miles down the road. Okay, so that is a Cat 2. Make sense? Trying to make it to where you guys can understand that. All right. So just know Cat 1, really bad. Cat 2, you can still work with that. All right. Cat 3, Degraded mission capability, minor damage to equipment, property, environment, minor illness or injury. Alright, so somebody can still get hurt. Maybe somebody's scoping out a route, they have an ATV, and, you know, maybe the route's unsafe, they damage the ATV, right? Would that be Cat 3 or Cat 1? Cat 3, right? Because it's still government property, it's still damaged, but it's not severe damage, alright? And it's not going to completely halt the mission. Okay? Minor illness, so, alright, maybe they rolled over, they sprained their ankle, okay, but they didn't die, alright? So there's still a possibility of that, you just have to consider which one fits. Category 4, little to no adverse impact on mission, minimal threat to personnel, equipment damage, may still be functional if there is damage, and little to no environmental property damage, alright? So this is like on the lower end, alright? So Cat 1 is your absolute worst case scenario. Cat 4 is the stuff that you're going to commonly see that you can't avoid, alright? Those are the risks that can't be mitigated. They're just going to always be there, okay? Like, you know, tripping over a stick, alright? That'd be Cat 4, right? There's still potential that it can happen. You could definitely have some type of minimal injury, but it's not going to degrade the mission or, you know, result in a death, okay? Probability, okay? We talked about severity. That's a whole different one. Probability, what do you think that means? The chance of it happening, right? So there's different levels of it actually happening. So category A, it's likely to occur immediately. Okay, so if you are on a range and you step out onto the firing line, what's going to happen to you?
Possibly going to get hit.
You're going to get shot, right? That will occur immediately. Make sense? Okay, category A. Category B, probably will occur in time. Okay, so say if you don't consider the weather. Okay, and say right now it's really cold, say the temperature was low and you went out. Eventually over time, what did you develop?
Hypothermia.
Hypothermia, right? Category B, all right? It could occur over time. Category C may occur in time, all right? And then category 4 or category D is unlikely to occur, so it may not even happen. Like, freaking, you're on a range and you get attacked by a bear, all right? That is unlikely to occur, right? But if there's reports of animals and the wildlife out there, you still have to put that down as a risk, right? But it's unlikely to occur, so that's the difference, all right? Category A, category D, and everything in between. Any questions about the different categories? All right, and then severity does what? What is that talking about? The actual risk, right? What level that risk is, right? Your probability is the likelihood of those risks happening. All right, the reason those are important because if you have to make an ORAW, an ORM developed for your training event or field op or whatever, you got to have one of these. Okay, it is a must and it has to happen. All right, what do you see in all of those things right there? The probability, severity. All right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Probabilities A, B, C, and D, and then you mark them accordingly depending on what it is. Pretty easy to do. All right. The colors, they kind of vary it, all right? I don't think they talk about the colors on here, all right? But this whole thing is called a risk assessment code, all right? So a RAC. Combine all this stuff is going to give you an actual score, all right? So it's going to be either 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then you're going to use that as your RAC category. Does that make sense? But that is how you put it together. You take your severity, your probability, you chart it together, and you see what you have. Make sense? Okay. Think of it as taking like an average of a score. Okay. So if you have a lot of, you know, 2s and 1s, all right, your RAC is probably going to be pretty high, right? Same thing applies. Pitfalls: over-optimism, mispresentation, alarmism, discrimination, prejudice, inaccuracy, enumeration. All right. So what do all those things mean? Okay. So these are things that could affect your actual ORM process, all right? How it all falls in play and all those risks, okay? So how do you control these things? All right, first way is to reject the risk. What does rejecting the risk mean?
Saying no.
What's that?
Saying no.
Okay, so completely eliminating that risk whatsoever, okay? How do I eliminate the risk? Just don't do it, right? You know, avoid an action completely, all right? Or maybe don't do that route, all right? Don't use this route for the hike. Or maybe don't go out during this type of weather. You're going to all together eliminate that chance of it happening. Make sense? So that is rejecting the risk. Avoid the risk, all right? So you're not rejecting it, but you're avoiding it. So how do you avoid the risk? Changing the route, maybe starting your hike at a different time, all right? So I'm avoiding that risk by changing my plan. Make sense? Delay the action. What does that mean? Do it a different day, so you're delaying the day of the hike, okay? So that's an example. Alright? Transfer the risk. What does transfer the risk mean? Chief. What's that?
Give it to chief.
Give it to chief. No, that is not the correct answer. Nobody? Transferring the risk? What do you think it means? Besides giving it to chief.
Somebody maybe participate.
Okay. So maybe, okay. Using the risk to your advantage. Okay. So, okay. Makes sense. So at that point, you are molding that environment to your advantage, right? Okay. So you are basically owning that risk itself. And say a hike on a hot day versus a hike on a cold day. All right. If you change the event completely, have you transferred the risk? Yeah, right. But does that mean that I have to go from one extreme to the other? No. All right. You still have to find that middle ground, okay? Because then you're still going to have that risk. You didn't altogether get rid of it. You just transferred it to another risk. Does that make sense? All right. And then compensate for that risk. How do I compensate?
Big car.
What's that? Buy a big truck. Okay, what else? Getting more water. Okay, so bring excess amount of stuff, okay? So if you know you're probably going to run out of water, should you probably bring extra water? Yes, all right, you should bring extra stuff, okay? Maybe have an extra corner, all right? That's how you compensate for those risks. If you have a risk where you're looking at a high potential of casualties, then you beef up what you need, right?
Does anyone have like a good story of like you knew that there was risk and then you brought it up to the attention of someone higher and they just said like, wow, you thought just be big. Yeah, so I remember being in Afghanistan as an Agent 3 and we went out on a mission and then there were like IEDs, we couldn't go back. And so we were stuck out there for 2 weeks when it was only supposed to be 3 days. So we only brought food for essentially like 4 days. And so by the time we ran out of like Pop-Tarts and shit, we started getting like really hungry, and there was a village right next to us where all of our vehicles were going to pause, and the elders offered to cook us all food, right? So what's the problem with like eating food from like Afghans you don't know? I mean, what could be the potential risk there? Poison you, yeah, because they're all terrorists out there. What else? I mean, after eating like MREs for so long, like then you eat regular food, like you're jacked up, your system's all messed up. So there were like a lot of risks involved, and so I spoke to my captain and said, like, I see what you guys are trying to do, but like, you know, let's just kind of get all of our MREs, ration out what we can. Like, we should not be eating food from like locals we don't know. And he essentially just said, like, noted, Doc, I don't give a fuck. And then we ate food. So. And we all didn't die, but like a lot of the Marines ended up like getting diarrhea and stuff. But as a corpsman, you definitely need to kind of have like an ORM kind of mindset on this stuff of like, and you know, IDCs deal with this all the time on ship because whenever they go out to ship and then they're just doing like, aids and stuff, they tend to like fish overboard and stuff. And they bring on the fish, and then what do they do with the fish? They eat the fish. But the IDC is always saying like, oh God, like don't eat the fish, like it's the last thing I need. And so they typically just write memos of like, hey, I just want to inform the captain that I object against eating fish. You know, here's the ORM, and here we have food on ship stores. But you guys have decided to take on this risk, so it's not my responsibility. I wash my hands clean. So as a corpsman, just like ORM always needs to be, we always kind of got to be the people that, like, when we see people having fun, we have to be the person on the side, like, guys, excuse me, and then they just like shut up and then just write.
Always cover your own ass with that stuff. Okay? Because it will come back to bite you in the ass. Because if you say, yeah, let's do it, and something happens, who's responsible for that? Oh, Doc, why weren't you there? Why didn't you tell us to stop? All right? That's why you have to make sure that you have documentation. Hey, I did what I was supposed to. Good. Alright, so the types of controls. You have different ones. Engineering controls, administrative controls, and physical controls. Alright? Those are pretty self-explanatory. So, everything talks about it. So what are engineering controls? I'm going to start on machines. Okay, so the built-out process, right? What is the administrative control for that? So say I've built this process out, how do I administratively control that process?
Paperwork.
The paperwork, right? The ORM sheets, all that good stuff. Those are administrative controls. What is the physical control of that? You physically being there and monitoring and making sure those things are done. All right, and each one will have its own different thing, right? All right, so if setting up a barrier, all right, is one of those, is a control for your evolution. That is a physical control, right? It's physically stopping something from happening, right? So that's what an example of a physical control. Your administrative control is all the paperwork and stuff that you've used to make sure that that all happens and stays in place. Make sense? All right, and then the engineering control is everything that was developed in order to create that process. All right, time critical risk management. Okay, briefly talked about that. What does time critical mean? You ain't got a lot of time, right? You got to make something happen. Okay, so applying the ORM at the point of commencing or during the execution of a mission. All right, it uses the ABDC model instead of the 5-step process, which is what? IMIS, right? ABDC is completely different. It's only used at what time? Time critical. Alright? So that means that you have to make the decision right then and there. So say something happens during your evolution that you didn't plan for. And I have to make a decision because if I don't make a decision, it's going to cause either mission degradation or someone's going to get severely hurt. Alright? Would that be considered time critical? Yes. Alright? Because I have to make that decision right then and there. I may have to adjust the plan. Okay? So if that happens, we use the ABDC model. And that's what it is. Assess the situation. Alright? Balance the resources, communicate to others, do and debrief the event. So assess the situation. Okay, so something clearly changed where you have to change your plan, right? So you assess that situation. What are the outcomes of this? If I do this instead of this, what's going to happen? That is me assessing that situation. Balance the resources. Okay, see what you have available in order to make that change of plan happen, in order to make sure that everyone safely gets through the evolution. Communicate to others. If you make a change to your plan, what do you have to do? You got to tell everybody else, right? It's like if you call an audible in football and your team doesn't know what happens, what is your team going to do? They're going to go with the same play that you gave them in the beginning, right? So you have to make sure you communicate with your team that the plan changed and this is what the new plan is. Make sense? Do and debrief the event. So brief when it happens. Okay, hey guys, this is what's about to happen. Here's step 1, 2, 3, and 4 what we're going to do. Good? Everybody good? All right, check. You move. After the event's over, what do? You debrief. Okay, hey, listen up guys. We got to make that quick decision. Here's the why behind it. Always debrief your troops on what's going on. Okay? Because they may not know what's going on. All right, you think PFC knows what's going on? No, he's just going wherever you tell him to go. He's gonna bitch about it, he's gonna cry about it. He's like, hey, why are we going uphill this way? Why are we going freaking 5 miles the other way? But he doesn't know why. All right, so at the end you have to make sure that everyone is back on that plan and everybody knows why the decision was made. All right, that's why he goes debriefs. All right, so here's the two differences. All right, your time critical. ABCD, assess, balance, communicate, do debrief. Your 5-step, IMIS, right? Identify, assess, make risk decisions, implement controls, and supervise. All right, can those all correlate together? Yes, they can. All right, you can mix and match all those steps together, but at a minimum, if you're in a time critical situation, those are the 4 things you have to make sure you do. Make sense? Alright, so your training. When do you do it? Annually. Who gets it?
Everyone.
Everybody. Okay? You don't have to be the safety officer. The safety officer gets more training. Alright, but you as an individual, you will at least get that annually. You're probably going to get it when you check in on board. Alright, and then after that, you're going to get it every year. Alright? Supervisor. If you are a supervisor, you're expected to be trained. Why?
You're the one seeing it.
Exactly. You're in one of those processes, right? Isn't one of the processes supervised? Okay, you're a supervisor. You have to be trained on how to handle situations as a supervisor. The training is still the same, it's just on a different level. Alright? Remember those make this first decision at the right level? Alright, so if you're a supervisor, your decision is going to be at a supervisor level. Alright? Supervisor gets it with increased responsibility. So you make second class, you're not already a supervisor, you're going to be a supervisor, so you're going to get specialized training on ORM as a supervisor. Make sense? Alright. Assistant, fundamentals, essentials for leaders, application integration, executive overview, learning courses. And then the actual manager. Alright, so the assistant and the manager, that talks about people in positions. So like the safety officer, he is usually the manager of the safety program for a unit. And typically with that collateral, just like any other collateral, there is what? An assistant, right? So that is a training that they have. So the manager has to have training every duty tour, and they have to have the executive course. All right, this is for someone who stays in that position the whole time. All right, typically you're not going to be the safety officer your entire career. Okay, but usually you'll have civilians that work at the safety centers. Those guys manage these programs. All right, so they are considered managers, and they have to have that training. That's it. That's ORM. Any questions about anything I just covered? About operational risk management. Alright, so like I said, ditties, alright? That's probably the easiest way to remember this stuff. And then just break it down in simple terms, okay? Help yourself remember the steps. Okay, if I'm in this situation, what steps should I be taking to make sure that, A, I don't have loss of life, it doesn't stop the mission, no one gets hurt, and there's no damage to property. Okay, just put yourself in that scenario and you can kind of figure this stuff out. Make sense? Any questions? Alright, cool. That's all I have for you guys. If you have any questions about RM or anything else, I'm over headquarters battalion. Come see me anytime. Yep, that's all I got. Good luck on your exams. Thank you. Brad.
Should be good now. Touchy mouse. So that means between, you know, your senior enlisted leader and the HN could potentially could be construed as unduly familiar. Any questions? Definition of fraternization. Yep. Yeah, shoot, sorry.
We had a conversation about this. Conversation we had was actually like how it's interpreted, as long as it's not in your direct chain of command. So HN could possibly talk to like a senior if they're not in that chain of command, like.
Could, yes.
But
let's say that senior chief is friends with your director at LCPO. Then it could be, if that senior chief comes and talks to that other senior chief, and then they start talking about you, and that senior chief that you're friends with makes a, hey, how's this sailor doing? You know, you should take care of her. Now it becomes unduly familiar and can be perceived as fraternization. Good? Did that answer it? Is that where you were trying to go? Okay. Alright. Gender neutral concept used to identify personal relationships that do not respect the bounds of acceptable senior-subordinate relationships. Alright? Gender neutral concept. Understand that, okay? Fraternization includes improper relationships, social interaction between officers, members, as well as between enlisted members, regardless of their service affiliation of the other officer or enlisted member, including members of foreign military services. So that means I couldn't go out to the bar and start talking to a nurse at the Air Force, and, you know, we link up, unless it's a relationship I've already had established. Go ahead, you got something?
So on the PMK, there was actually one of the questions. There was one of the questions, and it was like, who could a Navy officer, like what other type of serviceman could a Navy, from what branch could a Navy officer talk to? It didn't specify whether it was enlisted or another officer. It just said, and I was confused as shit because I was like, none of them. But it was like
talking to like in a relationship.
Yeah, like have a personal relationship with.
Right.
So it was all three. Like it was like any other like uniform service, including for a military, and then we like do this and we get into them. But the new information saying this, but then we go over this and it says something different. So
right.
Kind of like,
really, it's fraternization. If I'm enlisted talking to an Air Force officer, it's still construed as fraternization. So I'm not sure what that PMK. I haven't done that yet. So. Yeah. So all the options that it listed were they were all enlisted?
They were like, it didn't specifically say like enlisted or another officer. It just said service member. So it's, you know, like a broad spectrum. It didn't go like the specifics. And it was like any of them.
Interesting. I'll have to look at that and figure it out. If you want to pull it up, somebody can pull it up, I'll look at it. But in this case, uniform, you know, whatever uniform you wear doesn't matter. Okay, your service affiliation, listed to officer, still fraternization. All right. Examples of fraternization: E7, E9, and a junior E1 through E6 within the same command. So we kind of talked on that briefly. Okay. Staff or instructors and students, recruiters with prospects, applicants, or DEP personnel. Staff or instructors with students is a big no-no. That's a quick way to get into some big trouble. All right. Same goes if I'm a student over at FMTV, even though I'm an E6 and my buddy's, you know, a staff member there and he's an E6, we really can't hang out while I'm a student at that course. Okay, it doesn't differentiate staff and student. Okay. Recruiters with prospects, applicants, or DEP personnel. Of course, that's, you know, understandable. All right, results of fraternization. Call into question the senior's objectivity, result in actual or preferential treatment, undermine the authority of a senior, or compromise the chain of command. Okay, those are some things that can happen because of fraternization. Service members who are married or otherwise related, parent, child, cousin, to other service members, must maintain the requisite respect and decorum attending the official relationship while either is on duty or in uniform in public, as Navy standards of conduct still apply. So even though my mom could be like an officer, she shouldn't be giving me preferential treatment, you know, making phone calls on my behalf, all that stuff. All right, we still maintain that that proper professional relationship in the workplace, no matter what. Okay. Office of the Chief Naval Operations Director responsibilities. They are the lead for the Navy's fraternization program. They track incidents or reports of fraternization, including Navy personnel, and then they maintain a database from data provided in Navy Unit Situation Reports, or a SITREP report, and this database will be historical recorded to capture trend analysis. Alright, so CNO and Director, their responsibilities, they're the overall responsible for the fraternization program, okay? And they're going to keep a database. So if they ask, how is, a fraternization reported? SITREP, Navy SITREP. We understand Navy SITREPs, right? COs, OICs, ensure all members of the command are aware of the policies herein, provide indoctrination and training to all hands on the subject of fraternization, including examples of appropriate and prohibited personal relationships. So of course, when you come into INDOC, you usually have someone come down and talk about fraternization. Most of the time, it's probably your CMO, right? Command and Equal Opportunity person. Of course, they're going to report any allegations of fraternization via Navy SITREP for the reference, and that's going to go to the CNO. And then upon the conclusion, they provide a final SITREP indicating the disposition of said case. All right, so technically 2 SITREPs will be provided. One saying, hey, this is what we have going on, and 2, this is how we fixed it. Address the offending conduct by taking appropriate action that may include counseling, issuing letters of instruction, commenting on fitness reports or performance evaluations, reassignment, and taking appropriate disciplinary steps when necessary. They also have to ensure service members assigned to their command who report any fraternization are not subject to reprisal. So essentially like the Whistleblower Act. If you bring something up that is perceived as fraternization, there shouldn't be any reprisal against you for bringing that to someone's attention. Seniors in the chain of command, be especially attentive to their personal associations such that their actions and actions of their subordinates are supportive of the military chain of command and good order and discipline, and then provide guidance on appropriate relationships that build unit cohesion and morale. And then who is accountable? Well, the senior party is expected to control and preclude the development of inappropriate relationships. This policy is applicable to both members, and both are accountable for their own conduct. Alright, so though the senior person is supposed to be the one that understands and is responsible, the junior person will also be held accountable. Yep. Any questions? Alright, what instruction are we talking about? 5370.2 Delta. Awesome.
It looked like trash. More flavor for me. Haters gonna hate.
Alright, give Agent 2 Reyes your attention. He's going to teach your next class.
Hey, good morning. I'm Agent 2 Reyes. I'm the Psych Tech for 8th Reg. Today we're going to go over the Department of the Navy policy on sexual harassment, second half instruction 5300.26 Delta. Alright, so the purpose is to provide a comprehensive DON policy for all military and civilian personnel. Okay, it's not just for enlisted, it's for everyone in the Navy, including civilians. It applies to everyone, including people in the reserve, midshipmen, civilian employees. Okay. This class is going to be quick, so, I mean, we all know, don't sexually harass anyone at work. Even if it's funny.
It's not funny.
It's not, right, it's not funny. Alright. So it's committed to maintaining a work environment free from unlawful discriminatory practices. So these letters are in red. Sexual harassment is prohibited.
Really?
They're fucking red. Just don't do it. Just don't do it, okay? They shouldn't be in red. They should just be common sense, right? All DON personnel, military and civilian, will be educated and trained upon a session. You guys know what a session means?
Joining the Navy.
Yes, thank you, because I didn't know that this morning. Within coming into the Navy or starting to work for the Navy, within 90 days, you guys have to get a sexual harassment training, okay? And then annually afterwards, right? So when do we do them? Annually. GMTs, right? Everyone does GMTs. Yeah. All right. All reported incidents, sexual harassment, should be resolved at the lowest appropriate level. What does that mean? Everyone knows. Exactly. Start at the bottom, and then if that doesn't work, go to the next step. If that doesn't work, report to the next step. All right. For civilian employees, confidentiality is guaranteed during the informal stage of a complaint. Okay. Good request. Questions? All right. Accountability. No individual in the Department of the Navy shall commit sexual harassment. If someone is accusing you of it, you will not take reprisal action against a person who gets a report, right? We will not knowingly make a false accusation of sexual harassment. Right? Have you guys seen that in the news? Now there's a big deal about, fake rape allegations and all that. If you are in a supervisory position, don't condone it or ignore it, especially ignore it, because it is a big deal. Don't try to sweep it under the rug. Follow the steps that we're supposed to follow. That way, you avoid getting in trouble, and that person, there's just a proper investigation. All right. Can someone read the definition for sexual harassment?
Sexual harassment, a form of sex discrimination that involves unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of sexual nature when A, submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly a term or condition of the person's job, pay, career, or B, submission to or rejection of such conduct by a person is used as a basis for career or employment decisions affecting that person, or such conduct that has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with the person's individual's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment.
All right. So for C, even though let's say you're trying to get a date with another person, even though the purpose of you asking repeatedly for a date or whatever is not to interfere with their ability to work, just because that's not your purpose, that's not what you want, they can still have that effect, right? So even if that's not those aren't your intentions, they can still see you as sexual harassment. Right? Unwelcome behavior, common sense. If they don't want it, stop it. Right? It's weird. This makes it weird. You guys are just, I don't know, makes work weird. Alright. Your work environment is a workplace or any other place that is work related. So even if it's not your shop, but you're in a class setting like this, it's still work related, right? Responsibility. Leadership is a key to eliminating all forms of unlawful discrimination. Sound leadership must be the cornerstone of the effort to eliminate sexual harassment. What does sound leadership mean to you guys? Anybody?
It doesn't come to question.
What?
It doesn't come to question.
It doesn't come to question. Yes. Anybody else? Good. You guys are trying to be second class. I mean, you guys are already third class. You guys are already leaders, right? So, all right. All right. So the zones are kind of strange. Not strange. Just read the zones, right? So the green zone, these are not sexual behaviors. So like shaking hands, friendly pat on the shoulder. Thank you for demonstrating. Yellow zone. Many people would find these behaviors unacceptable and they could be sexual harassment. So let's say Austin and Young, you guys appear to be pretty close. Don't kiss. Red zone. So just because you guys are comfortable, you guys are comfortable being in each other's, personal space. If Holcomb feels uncomfortable, he could perceive it as sexual harassment, right? That's why yellow is that zone where it's feel where you're surroundings, right? Red zone, these are always considered sexual harassment. Sexual favors in return for employment rewards, threats if sexual favors are not provided, sexually explicit pictures. It's gross. It's weird, right? You guys have any questions? It's pretty easy. Just because we see it every year, right? Do I have a question?
Yeah, there used to be lights, the green light, yellow light, red light.
Yeah,
and
I
then to
remember
go out the yellow light, and then it was just green and red light, and now there's zones.
Sounds bad, thing.
Yeah, these are in the instructions. All right. What is the name of the instruction? What is the nomenclature for the instruction? Second instruction. What? Yeah, point two. All right. Good job, guys. Awesome. How long do you have to complete sexual harassment training upon coming
90 days.
90 days. How often do you guys have to do refresher courses?
Annually.
Nice. All right.
Tit for tat.
Can someone describe the yellow zone for me?
Pat on the shoulder.
Violating my personal space.
What's that?
Violating my personal space.
Yeah, someone violating your personal space. Questionable behavior. Absolutely. Real quick, what is quid pro quo?
Just for that.
Alright, you guys have no more questions? Thank you guys for coming. Good luck.
Thank you.
And I would just say, if there's one thing I don't mess with, and I always tell sailors, there are very few rules in the Navy you should live by. One, don't shit where you eat. Two, don't touch sailors. I mean, it's very simple rules to not get in trouble. If anyone even kind of questions the zone that potentially just occurred, you're already wrong. And if you are counseling someone, if you're counseling a member of an opposite sex, keep the door open or have a standby. That's just rules to live by, because I'll tell you, my career is not going to go down by someone crying wolf. That's just what I'm going to say. So always have a standby. If possible, have a standby of the same sex as the person that you're counseling. It's a good rule of thumb to live by, and then a pay grade above. So I do not mess around with it, and I'll never forget, I was a second class. I was LPO for the first time in the department at a hospital. And I had a sailor, she was a CTI, and she was going through med board, a plethora of issues, whatever. Anyway, I had just taken over the department, so I wanted to get to know the sailors. And so I had her in the office, I closed the door, we had a good conversation, no issues, she leaves. My chief comes in and slams the door and is like, what the hell are you doing? Hopefully, nothing comes of this, but learn your lesson now. That sailor had been in and out of offices, just, blaming other people and chiefs that don't go her way for sexual harassment and sexual assault. Let this be your one lesson now. Never counsel a female sailor unless you have a standby in there where the door is completely open for everyone to see kind of what happened. So, don't shit where you eat, don't touch sailors. There's no reason for either. So that's just my advice for them. You live by those rules and you show up on time and you wear the right uniform sometimes, you'll become a mass chief eventually. So just live by those rules, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Every fucking time I watch it, it's so fucking, yeah, I'm right now, just that.
report skit they did. Look up.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, I like white boys, big white boys. You gotta look it up. Look up Rick and Morty courtroom. Take a fucking transcript from a court, like hearing, and hit it. Fucked up. Morty's playing the judge.
Push.
Rick's playing the whatever the fuck it is, defendant. And it's just like.
I'll show you when we go on the break.
Oh, 666 pages? Hail Santa!
That will have you wearing gold t-shirts from your
You're not right.
Is it really 666 pages?
Listen up so you can roll through this and then you guys can break for lunch.
Cute.
Alright, last class before lunch. So we're gonna make it quick. There's a reason for that, right? Everybody knows the Blue Jackets manual. I mean, you featured again, by the way. Everybody knows the Blue Jacket manual. You get issued one in boot camp. Who still has theirs? Don't lie. Alright. So here's the thing. Sorry, Internet. So here's the thing. The Blue Jackets manual, it's like the Bible for the Navy, right? Uniforms, all that stuff we're going to talk about briefly. Because again, I'm not here to teach you this stuff. This is for you to read. We're going to hit the high points, what may or may not be on the test. The great thing about the Blue Jackets manual, and any senior person will tell you, or most senior people will tell you, they will still revert back to it because it at least gives you a starting point, right? So if I have an issue and I want to learn about whatever, I can flip through the Blue Jackets manual, find it, and it'll at least tell me where to go if not give me the answer. So that's what's great about it. All right, chapter 1, intro to the Navy, talks about boot camp, talks about naval technology. Missions and heritage of the Navy. You need to know this, right? The mission of the Navy. That's probably pretty important for a Navy advancement exam. Freedom of the seas, or sea control. Deterrence, forward presence, and security. Highlight that, dazzle it, write it down, whatever you're into, right? Missions of the Navy. Heritage encourages new sailors to learn about the history of the Navy, and it instills pride. All right, your ranks and rates, if you don't know that by now, sorry for you. Okay? He's not going to help you out. Now, what you might see, oh, it's not showing you, never mind. There you go. What you might see is the different, or see on the test are the different rating badges, right? Or the different collar devices for officers, perhaps the different warfare devices. That's definitely something you want to brush up on before you go into that exam. Talks about the different dress uniforms. What's the one constant? What's the one thing you can wear whenever? Right? I wear it every week. What? All right, leadership, the art of causing people to do what is required to accomplish a task or mission. Discipline, that's, again, Latin, or comes from Latin. You didn't know you need to know Latin to get promoted, now you know, right? Quid pro quo, discipline. Controlling of individuals or actions, impulses or emotions. Personal relations covers topics such as ethnic discrimination, sexual harassment, fraternization, hazing, public relations, diplomacy, and standards of conduct. Customs and courtesies. You see what's in red right there? I've seen this before. Okay? Morning colors, 08, everybody should know that. And then evening colors at sunset, half-mast when an important official dies for U.S. Navy regs. All right, the gun salutes is another big one. If you don't know this, you need to. This is something you probably need to memorize. 21 gun salute on Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, and for the President of the United States. That's when you get a 21 salute, or give a 21 salute. 19 for the Vice President, 17 for Secretary of the Navy and Admirals, 15 for a Vice Admiral, 13 for Rear Admiral upper half, 11 for a Rear Admiral lower half. Manning the rail, 600 yards for ships, or passing arms. Good? All right, make sure you know those. Boarding and departing a ship. I think it's been a while, but I have seen it on an advancing exam before. I don't remember which one. Formations. When you get into drill, there's a bunch of different stuff. What I have seen are the differences between ranks, files, or columns. Right? And what's the distance that it needs to be between people in a file or column? What's the distance between the person in front of you to yourself? 2 feet. How about one person that knows the answer? Like definitively knows the answer. 40 inches. You guys remember singing songs about that, like in boot camps? 40 inches. It's 40 inches, right? All right, different types of duty. You got shore duty type 1, sea duty type 2, OCONUS shore duty type 3, OCONUS sea duty type 4. Not to insult intelligence, but know the difference, obviously, between CONUS and OCONUS. All right, know how to read an LES. You'd be surprised at how many people, even now, and I'm talking about third classes and above, don't truly know how to read an LES. I don't necessarily maybe see a specific question coming from the LES, but it's important that you know how to truly read. Know the different acronyms, right, for your allowances, your paying allowances. Am I going too fast or are we good? All right. Know about these programs, right? And these programs go more into depth on some of the instructions and policies that you guys have read about and learned about and are going to read about. All right, ship stuff. Who's got blue side experience in here? Like on a ship or whatever? No, that doesn't count. I really. All right, so the reason that I stress this is because, like I, for instance, have been greenside my entire career, minus like instructor duty, and a lot of you all have probably only done greenside. This stuff gets kind of put in the back of your mind, or you don't learn about it. So it's brush up specifically, I would say, on your shipboard stuff. What's the front of the ship called? Bow. What's the back called? Stern. Cool. You guys are saying it. All right. The first aircraft carrier, USS Enterprise. That's important. I've seen that before. All right, what are the weapons what are the small arm weapons that we use in the Navy right now?
M9.
M9.
M4.
M4. What's the M14? Yeah, right. Rifle, use it for drill. What else? 12 gauge shotgun. 240. You got the 240 and the 50 cal. Okay, so I would memorize that. I could see that being a possible question. Shipboard stuff. Emergencies. You got general quarter, man overboard, a CBR attack. The MOP levels you guys are going to have, if you haven't already. Today's Thursday, you probably have had it. All that stuff, that CBRE stuff, feed into your brains. It's important. I've never taken an advancement exam that didn't have at least one CBRE question. Damage control on a ship. Whose responsibility is it?
Everybody's.
Everybody. Harmless type seamanship. Working with a rope or line. Mooring. Deck seamanship. What's an unrep? What does that stand for? All right. Vert rep. What is that? All right. crew, I've seen this before as well, on small boats, the different crew members and what they're responsible for. Coxswain is in charge of personnel and equipment. Engineer in charge of the engine, obviously. The boat officer oversees ops and ensures safety. I've seen that before. Alright, your two forms of communication are internal communications on the ship. You got the 1MC and then the J system, which is your sound powered telephone. Does it require batteries? Think about it. You guys want to brush up on your flag signaling? That's on you. Go ahead. Health, fitness, and first aid. Personal hygiene. The Navy has standards for all of this stuff. Personal hygiene, male and female health, and nutrition, which you guys probably looked into or read about and learned about some nutrition this week. The organization of the Navy, you should have a basic working knowledge on that. You can see it goes in order there. DOD, Secretary of Defense, JCOS, SECNAV, CNO. You need to know how the Navy lays out. That was quick. I thought it was more than that. Let's talk, let's see, what are some other things I've seen on the jackets? Ribbons, when you're wearing, let's say, a service uniform. Ribbons, how high off the edge of the pocket do they go? For males, yep, okay. Dress uniform, if you're wearing medals and ribbons, large medals, or medals and ribbons, where do the medals go, where the ribbons go? Right? And what specifically about the ribbons is unique?
The female earring question.
Yeah, female uniform regulations is a big one. Who knows specifically the earring regulation for females?
I think it's 4 to 6 millimeters. Silver balls for enlisted, gold for.
Go for chiefs and officers. What about fingernails?
Whatever each related.
Yep, 1/4 inch. Males, what about male? That's one that gets overlooked a lot. Because dudes are scumbags sometimes. I should be careful when I'm talking. Hey, what's the regulation for males? So one person that knows it. What's that? Yep, up to the fingertip. Can you go past the fingertip? No, you cannot. Right? So even if you play guitar to impress the ladies on the weekends, you can't grow that stupid long finger. Use a pick. Don't be a weirdo.
You can clear nails now.
Well,
He does look like a dog.
what are some other ones that you all have seen off the Blue Jackets manual?
I've seen fleets.
Say again?
Fleets.
Okay, the different fleets. Okay, and where they are.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows that one? Go ahead.
Pack, 3rd, Atlantic, 2nd, Middle East, basically like the Red Sea, Gulf, 5th, Met, 6th, Asia, 7th Fleet. Yeah, cyber.
So that is one I've seen as well. What else? Anybody else got something specific that they've seen that's like
Ships
generic?
passing.
Say again?
Ships passing each other.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that one's
Yep.
the flag pop-up, what does it mean? Different flags, Oscar flag.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen the flags a lot. Look into the flags. Highlight that in your Blue Jackets manual or whatever you guys are studying, because that's something that definitely does get asked about for sure.
Braids.
Say again.
Braids. I've seen it like once ever.
What is it?
The braids, men or like.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Female hair regulations with the braids.
Males can have a braid too. What? Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for myself?
I do. It's kind of retarded.
Yes.
So,
No
what,
such thing. Just kidding.
what is Hawaii considered Oconus?
No.
So it is considered
It is.
Oconus.
Yep.
So if I was stationed over there in the hospital, I would be type
1, I think is what you said, right? CONUS type 1? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
It is not Moconis. It's far away, but it's still part of the United States.
Which they used to make you do overseas screening to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So,
Hawaii is one of those weird places. Like, you do get the cola, but it's technically still.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for me? You guys just ready for chow?
Yeah.
Alright, I got nothing for you. You got nothing for me. Thanks.
12:45, back at 12:45, we're gonna kick off the 13th.
kill.
Low on money.